I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of a full video review of the Nokia Lumia 928. It's a new Nokia Windows Phone flagship device available now on the nation's largest carrier, Verizon Wireless. Bringing together the largest carrier and a flagship, good news for Windows Phone, but can it compete with Android and iOS? We'll find out in part 2, which starts right now. Part 2 of a video review of the Nokia Lumia 928. Not only is this a Lumia flagship device, but this is a flagship device on Verizon, which for Nokia is very important. Say what you will about Verizon, but they're the nation's largest wireless carrier. So having flagships on Verizon, AT&T, and soon T-Mobile with the Lumia 925 says a good thing about Nokia. It says that they're getting their devices out and getting high-end devices out at that. So it speaks well to that, it speaks well to consumers, and it speaks well to the fact that they have these distribution agreements with carriers, because that means just more Windows phones. So the more distribution agreements Nokia has, the better the relationship most likely will be with a Verizon, with an AT&T, with a T-Mobile, and hopefully at some point with a Sprint. The Lumia 928, though, available for $99.99 with a 2-year agreement on Verizon Wireless, and this thing is packed, at least for Windows Phone standards, with some decent specs. You got a 1.5 gigahertz dual-core Snapdragon S4 CPU, a 4.5-inch HD display with clear black technology, an 8-megapixel camera on the back with a xenon flash, 2,000 milliamp hour battery, 4G LTE connectivity in the 497 markets in which Verizon has it, so you can take advantage of that, which is really nice. And it's $100. So for $100 with wireless charging to boot, that is not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Now I left off in part 1 talking about personalization, and I want to move back into that and tell you some more things that this has, because if you're like me, you like to customize and personalize your device. It's very important to you, and Windows Phone has historically, at least in my take of it, been a little bit behind in the personalization department. If you remember back to the original Windows Phone 7 stuff, kind of hard to do personalization. You still to this day can't have a background behind your live tiles, at least out of the box. It's a black screen or a white screen, and that's it. So still some things like that that they can make a little bit better, but for example, theme, I can change the colors, and I have a wealth of new colors in Windows Phone 8 now, including steel. One of my favorites is crimson red, then there's this orange as well. I like this one also, olive, and so I can change that, for example, when you see the live tiles change. Likewise, I can change that dark background, like I said, to a light background if I wanted to as well. So applications here, and it's just one of those things. Windows Phone 8 is intended to be an easy-to-use operating system. It's intended to be simplified, and that's something that's good for a lot of people. That said, it may be too simple for some people. They may want the Microsoft integration, but don't want the simplicity. This is one of those things, and phones are increasingly becoming like this. It's one of those things where, you know what, you may want something, but you don't like something else. You've just got to pick and choose your battles. Maybe the battery's not good on a particular device, but you like the OS, something of that nature. That is just something you have to pick and choose between, and that's even more the case here with Windows Phone 8. You may love the browser. You may hate the battery life. You may love the browser and like the ecosystem of Microsoft, but don't care for the fact that it's not personalized enough. You got to pick and choose your battles in mobile space. So you've got here your latest, your featured, and your exclusives. This is PhoneDog.com. As you saw, it loaded up very quickly on the 4G LTE connectivity, and of course, same keyboard we talked about in part 1. Now, a really fast web browser here. I like the performance of it. Pinch to zoom is incredibly responsive. And then I've got my tabs here where I can click and open up a secondary web page if I want to, and then switch right back to PhoneDog when I'm done. And our new site design, which I happen to be a major fan of. After months of working on this, glad to see it out in the wild. And then much like typical Windows Phone devices of the past, I can press and hold the back button to access applications that I've used recently. I can go back into my keyboard, for example, or my messaging, and take a look at the message that I was typing right there. So overall, personalization has gotten better. Now I want to spend some time and focus on some of the Nokia applications that come out of the box on this device. Some of those have been changed. They're no longer Nokia Maps, it's Here Maps and Here City Lens. This is one of my favorite applications in the world when I'm traveling into a city I don't know. So I'm in San Francisco, for example. I mean, I'm there all the time for work, but I wouldn't say I know the city particularly well. I'm always in and out. So despite the fact that I've been there 30 times, maybe I want to find a good place to eat and drink or shop, or go out somewhere in the evening or get transport. So I can go, actually this one's a great one. Let's say I land in Las Vegas, or let's say I land in San Diego, and I'm like, I need to calibrate my compass. Do that real quick. But let's say I land in San Diego and I'm like, you know what, I need a good place to stay, don't have a clue where would be good. I can land here and I can put it out like this. I actually do it in portrait mode so you can see all the accommodations within a few minutes of my office. So using this as an example, when I throw it into landscape mode, it brings out the map, and then I've got the look and feel here where I can scroll over and it shows me real time. Day's End is right over there. The hideaway is right there, Radisson's right there, and I can click on it and find out more information if I want to and easily see that. So that's a really cool application. City Lens is great for meals, great for accommodations, great for opportunities in the city, like if you want to catch a show, it's fantastic to use. Here Maps is also very good, and then I like Nokia Music. This is one of my favorite applications. It comes pre-installed. There is a paid version as well, but the free version is what I'm using on this device. So we'll go ahead and allow this and take a look at my music. So I can create a mix, and let's say, you know what, I want a mix of listening online, it's taking data, I want a mix of, Trace Adkins, not Tracy Kramer Kelly, but you know what, we'll leave it in there. And let's find, what else? Let me think. Pat Green, and then we'll go to, what else? Why am I drawing? Let's do Reba. Do love some Reba. And so I can play this mix. It's going to be the weirdest mix in the world. But I'll play the mix. And I can only skip a certain number of times in the free version. But it's nice to have these applications. Oh, good song. My point is, it's nice to have these applications pre-installed out of the box. And it's part of the Nokia value you get with Nokia's Windows phones, as opposed to maybe a Samsung Windows phone or an HTC Windows phone, for example. So nice to see here. I can keep skipping if I want to. But once I hit the 6 point, I can no longer skip. And I can do it within an hour afterwards, or I can subscribe to Nokia Music. So a great application, in my opinion, out of the box. And of course, you have some great people integration here as well. So I'll go into the People Hub, for example, and take a look at my contacts. So I've got Joel Richardson, just using that contact as an example, and what's new. And then I've got Together. And these are some improvements that came with Windows Phone 8. The family room, for example, so if everybody in the family has Windows phones, I can create a family room and create a chat room for the family, or a calendar, share photos, notes, and more. So I could say, you know, family room with my fiance and the cat has a Windows Phone 8 device, let's say, and I can chat, I can share a calendar so we can talk about our free time and what we want to do, photos I can share, and then of course notes as well. So if I'm going to the grocery store, actually their example is surprisingly relevant. Don't forget the milk if I'm going to the grocery store. So I can invite people into that chat room and use that. Another great application called KidZone, I'll go into settings, Kids Corner. I always call it KidZone on video, I don't know. Kids Corner is what it is on Windows Phone. Next, and I can select application. So if little Timmy, you know what, we want him to use the calculator because he needs to be a smart boy. Alarms, CNN. Keep him well abreast on the news. We'll get him a calculator, and then we'll get him hooked up on CNN. So here's the Kids Corner. So from the lock screen, all you have to do is scroll over, and you can set a password on your lock screen so the kid can't access your applications and send emails from your work account. But Kids Corner is here, and then from here I can customize it with some of the Windows Phone 8 stuff. Like, for example, I can customize the tiles and make it a different looking screen. As you can see, change the background. So if I'm little Timmy and I want a light background and I really like blue, my name's Timmy and I like the color blue. Right here, and of course I can do all the little customizations you would expect from a typical home screen, make the icons smaller, the live tiles smaller or larger, and make it my own. So little Timmy can have something to play with. And then when I turn the phone off and back on, I'm right back in my normal Windows Phone 8 experience. Pretty cool there. And then also Outlook, I want to show this as well before we jump right into the camera and talk about it. So here's my Outlook account. I get a lot of spam in this Outlook sample account, but you can see it here and then unread and flagged, and you can see it's got that Metro UI look and feel even in Windows Phone 8. The fonts, as you can see, continue to kind of fade off the side. Urgent, all unread, flagged, and more. So a nice email account, nice inbox that I'm pretty pleased with overall. Secret sales, for example. I will go down here and see to Baker. secretsales.com, and you can see how it looks, and of course I can zoom in if I want to, and then I can reply and have all my tools down here. Toggle flag, mark as unread, and move, and then you'll notice when I click the menu button it gives me a text version of what these icons are. So if you're like, what does that mean with the arrow and the mail? It means respond, and so I can click on that and respond right there from my inbox. Pretty cool there. Camera, Xenon Flash 8 megapixel camera, has a front-facing shooter as well, and I've been incredibly pleased with the image quality here. Low light performance is fantastic. You can see just some sample shots I took in the office. Keyboard, easy, legible, and then of course the Elgato stick here as well. You can see zoomed in, easy to read that. And let's take some live pictures here of something. Let me find, let's find the Galaxy S4, for example. And I can bring it in. Actually, let's do this. Let's do, and I know you hate the pen test, but I'm going to do the pen test just because it's easy to see text. And I want to see what it looks like. Boom. Great picture all around, easy to read the fonts. And what I like about this, and I said it in part 1, Nokia on the Lumia 928 finally including the filter. So I can come in here and instead of having just Bing Vision and being forced to download lenses, I can come in here and say Smart Shoot, Cinemagraph, Panorama installed out of the box. I did none of this. It came out of the box, and that's something I've been harping on Nokia for, actually Windows Phone in general, but particularly Nokia since they're so vested in the ecosystem. To do that, I'm like, put the lenses in there out of the box so consumers can use it and be used to the camera as opposed to having to go to the store and download it. It's just frustrating and it's kind of clunky. So store, for example, I'll go into the Nokia collection so you can see it. App highlights, all the typical stuff, Play 2, and then there's some Nokia Applications Express. I have Foursquare. You'll notice that the Nokia version of Foursquare and then the Foursquare version of Foursquare are a little bit different in terms of the icon, but here are some of the photo options. Creative Studio, Panorama, as you can see, Cinemagraph, Nokia Glam Me, Nokia Trailers, Smart Shoot, and then that is about it. So nice to see that some of those lenses come out of the box. In short, I really like this device. I think it's a great step forward for Nokia, but this is an important marketing thing too for Nokia. Don't underestimate just the actual power that they got a high-end device on Verizon, because they've got 3 now. They've got the Lumia 920, the 925, and the 928, and with the Amber update, they're promising that features will roll back to these devices, giving it some of the new features as well. So they're already committing to app updates and software updates, but getting a device, a flagship Windows Phone 8 device on Verizon is a major feat. Verizon's a huge player in the US game, and it's nice to see a Nokia device come to them, and not just AT&T or not just T-Mobile, for example, which are equally large. AT&T is a large carrier, don't get me wrong, but having one on Verizon and AT&T controls just under 200 million or 200 million pops. So 200 million people getting access to Windows Phone 8 devices, regardless of whether they buy or not, that's going to increase visual awareness and create mind share of Nokia and of Windows Phone 8. Great device all around. Pretty pleased with it. $100, you can't beat it. And then you know what? Minus the slight keyboard lag, I find it to be a pretty useful device all around. And the wireless charging is a nice touch as well. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for more coverage on the Nokia Lumia 928. We'll have dogfights between this and the 920, so you can see the differences between the older Windows Phone device and the newer version. We'll have it between Android devices and, of course, iOS as well. So keep it locked on the site. I'm on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron, Facebook, Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker, and on Google Plus at gplus.to/PhoneDog. Thanks for watching. More to come on Nokia's newest Windows Phone 8 device on the site. I'll see you next time.